Welcome to the Prime Property Finance Podcast with Gareth Morgan and Mark Watts. This unique podcast will dive deep into all areas of property investing finance, going behind the scenes with property professionals, investors and clients. Between us, we have 35 plus years experience in property finance. The podcast has been launched to share knowledge, mindset requirements and experiences of successful investors and professionals. We aim to simplify many of the complicated areas of finance and investing and provide valuable and easy to implement tips. Keep an eye out for our new longer episodes every Tuesday and our shorter ones every Friday. You've probably seen it when scrolling through property portals. Cash buyers only. And for many investors, that's where they stop. They assume it's not financeable, too risky, or simply not for them. But what that often means is opportunity gets missed, because behind that label is usually a problem. And where there's a problem in property, there's often potential. In this episode, I'm going to break down what cash buyers only actually means, why property is listed this way, and how experienced investors can still approach these deals using bridging finance safely and strategically. So what does cash buyers only actually mean? First things first, cash buyers only doesn't always mean you literally need cash in the bank and nothing else. And this is where a lot of investors get tripped up. What this actually means is this property is not suitable for standard mortgage lending in its current condition. So estate agents will know that, in the main, that properties that have got issues, they're not mortgageable, which is what the majority of the properties that estate agents deal with will mean that it's not mortgageable in its current condition. And that's the key in all of this. So there is a way that we can navigate it. But before we do that, we need to understand why that listing has become. A lot of properties that are unsuitable for mortgages generally end up at auction, but not all of them. And some be listed with agents in the first instance. So let's understand why a property is listed as cash only. So common reasons will be condition issues. It's not habitable. So maybe there's no working kitchen, no bathroom. There might be issues with supply of utilities. There might be structural issues. There might be damp, subsidence, holes in the roof, major repairs needed. So that's generally living conditions. Then there's construction issues such as non-standard construction. So maybe it was built in the 70s, wimpy, no fines, and it hasn't had any updating done to it, for instance. And that's, again, just a short-term issue that can be overcome. It may have a short lease if it's a leasehold property, and that can be overcome by extending the lease or purchasing the freehold. It could be above commercial units. And of commercial units, it could be problematic, Chinese takeaways, fast food, pubs, etc. And again, that can be overcome. It's limited with lenders, but those things can be solved. There could be legal issues with the properties, so title defects, missing planning permission, missing building regs information, could be a dispute with a neighbour or family members. So there's legal issues, and again, all of these can be overcome in some way or other. And then, there could be development or conversion projects. They may be have had planning permission. They may have completed the works and then run out of money or decided that they don't want to carry on with the project. Somebody might have passed away and left it in that condition. There may be a change of use required. Again, they may be, touching on the planning element again. So it's not about the property being bad. It's about not meeting mortgage lending criteria in today's market as it is right now in this snapshot in time. So why can these be opportunities? Well, first of all, there's a smaller buyer pool because the majority of people like you potentially in the past will have just flicked past it going, well, I don't have the cash to purchase that property and move on. So that means there's less competition. Potentially there's discounted pricing. Because, if a property is mid-refurb, actually it's probably gone down in value before it's gone back up. And there's potential then to add value through a number of fixing whatever those problems may be, where they are current condition, maybe the construction issues, lease issues, legal issues that we mentioned. So knowing that you can fix the problem could lead to some serious upside. And that's where we see a lot of investors getting good deals. And ultimately, that's where experienced investors will get involved, because they know the properties with the biggest problems are the ones that add the most value. So how do you become a property problem solver? So where does bridging finance come into this? So bridging finance is actually designed for properties that aren't mortgageable. It's short-term funding that can be done with speed. It's not always a speed issue, but it's the fact that the bridging doesn't look at the condition of the property as it is. Well, it does look at the condition, but it takes a longer view of what will the condition be after the project is complete, whether that's a lease extension, whether that's a refurb, whether that's gain in planning, or whatever it may be. So it's a short-term funding solution which allows people to come in, buy the property in the first place, fix the issue, and then refinance it onto a standard mortgage, or sell it to somebody as a first-time buyer or home mover on a standard, who can then get a standard mortgage on that property. So the typical strategy that people would use for this would be buying the property with bridging finance. Like I said, refurbing it if it's a construction or condition issue, resolving the issue if it's a legal matter or planning matter. Then once that's done, the property becomes mortgageable. You then refinance that on a long-term buy-to-let mortgage or a residential mortgage or a term loan if it's commercial, and then actually repay the bridging loan that you've used. So you will know this strategy if you've listened to any of our other episodes and have spent some time in the property investing space, as buy, refurbish, refinance. It doesn't always have to be a refurb to do the value add. This is probably better described as buy, value add, refinance, or sell. However, in most instances, the value add is done by refurb. But it's important to know that there are risks involved in this. So some of those risks can be underestimating the refurb costs. We mentioned non-standard construction. It's not, depending on what the construction type is, there might be major work needed to put that right, and those works may cost more than the end value. So it's not all properties in poor condition actually are worth exploring and are good opportunities. So just being mindful of what it is the cost to actually convert the property and to fix the problem. Delays in works can happen, which can trigger extend the length of the bridging finance. The end valuation not turning out as expected, so down valuations, but that's where your upfront due diligence will come into it. Not being able to get the refinance that you wanted. And then, like I mentioned, bridging costs actually increasing if there's delays. So bridging finance doesn't actually fix a bad deal, but it amplifies a good or bad one. And so if it's a good deal, then it can mean that you can purchase that property with cash, in inverted commas, because you're acting like a cash buyer, even though you're not using physical cash. Okay, but if it's a bad deal, it can make the process worse because of the costs involved, delays, and then it could be tricky to get out of. So you hear horror stories around bridging finance, so that's some of the objections that we get, but actually it's just because someone's gone into a bad deal, it's become a problem, not because of the bridging finance. So what do savvy investors do differently? Key behaviors that we see are, first and foremost, is doing proper due diligence, do the numbers stack, from a purchase perspective, from an end value perspective, and actually the cost of fixing that problem, whether it's a refurb or a lease extension. Understanding and having a clear exit plan before you buy the property. Stress testing the refinance, both from an end value and a rental perspective. Building contingencies into costs, having a clear timeline, and obviously working with the right broker who understands this and can guide you through the process. So what are the key questions that you would probably want to ask before you look at one of these properties, or would want to proceed with one of these cash buyer only properties that you've stumbled upon on Rightmove or Zoopla? Then first question you have to ask is, why is the property cash only? So understanding what is the problem that is making it not mortgageable. And then the second question is, what can I do to make it mortgageable? So what is it that I can do to make that change, to make it mortgageable? And then how much will that cost? And then following that, how long will that take? And then kind of working backwards then, if I do all of that, what will it be worth after the works or adding the title extension or whatever it may be. And then will I be able to get an exit? Will the lenders accept this post refurb? Is it a legal issue? Is it a lease? Is it a refurb? And once I fix that problem, that doesn't necessarily mean the lenders will still lend against it. So just checking out that they would be comfortable with that and the work that you've carried out to satisfy it. So that might be a building control sign off, for instance. So in closing then, the key here is cash buyers only doesn't mean avoid this property. It means understand it. These deals can offer real opportunity, but only when approached with the right strategy, the right finance, and the right level of planning. If you're looking at a property like this and wondering whether it can be funded or how to structure a bridge to term strategy properly, then speak to us before you commit. Because with these deals, the finance isn't an afterthought. It's the actual strategy that you need to implement. So hopefully that's been helpful. As always, if you've liked this and you've got some value out of it and you might want to share it with any friends or family or other investors, then please do and like and comment on any of the posts. We really do appreciate the feedback, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. We hope you have learned something and have some tips to take away. We'd be very grateful if you enjoyed the show. You could give us a review and share with anyone that you know that may be interested, and of course subscribe to the show so you can get notified when a new episode is released. If you'd like us to answer any questions or go deeper on a specific topic, please drop us a message at primeproperty.finance. See you on the next episode.